Hey, so today I'm going to talk to you about how to write a simple SQL statement. I'm going to go into making a new data table, putting in information in the data table from SQL, and also I will be just going over some lottery number information. So if we go to, we're on our people schema right here. All we have to do is click SQL. When we click SQL, we'll get a blank document that looks like this that opens up. And for the simple statement, all you do is select star, which is select all from people friends, which is the address for a table. And when you run it, I already had put this information in there, and it comes up right away. Now, if we bring up phone num, I will open up the table. What I did was I created a new table, so I right-clicked on table, and I went to new table. And then at new table, I was able to put in the title, phone num. You go over to columns, and you can enter whatever columns you want. We did person ID, and phone number. And then for a constraint, we did I did person ID and phone ID. And the reason behind that is you can make those a primary key, and then you can reference them throughout the program. So we made both those primary keys, as you can see right here when it comes up: primary key, person ID, and phone ID. And phone number, just notice that should be numeric, not integer, because the normal preset for integer, sometimes when you try and put in a phone number, sometimes it can be too lengthy of a number. So just to be safe, when you do a long number like a phone number, unless you specify how many digits or bits of data storage, then numeric is the good way to go. Now that we have both of those, we discussed how they relate. They both relate through person ID. The person ID table right here is also going to be connected to the person ID here. So when we choose to do a SQL statement, now we can insert our own data into these tables, and we can do it with both of them. And now that they both relate, because the one person ID 1 relates to person ID 1 in both tables, we run this new script. What it's doing is insert into. First we want to start with delete from, and people friends is our table, and commit. So that just executes, it clears all the data, so then we can put new data in. And so we go with insert into, and I just inserted by the table. If you can see, this is phone ID, or the person ID, first name, last name, phone number, address, address to, city, state, and zip. And that follows the order that my columns are in. So from column 1 going on to the right, that's the order that you put your information. The numbers don't need a apostrophe on either side. The text does. That's because the numbers we already entered as either integer or numeric. And then once again for the phone num column, that's in the table phone num, and we had the person ID, phone ID, and the phone number. So I just retyped all of that to give that its own data section. Now we can relate the two. So now if you wanted to change that, so we can run this, and now it's in the table, and that's what you saw before because I had already ran this. And so when I do open up if I do want to change the information, we go to a update set where. Under update, you put the table address. So you start with the schema, and then you go to the table. And then you set the column. So in this case, I set phone from the table people friends, and I changed it to 1515 alternating. And then for person ID, I only want this to happen to person 1 because I don't want everybody to have the same phone number. So only person 1. They change their number, 1515 is going to be the new number. And now I did that with all 4 other people, and I set that as well for the phone number in the phone num section, which is the other table, just to make sure they go together. And now when we run this, you'll notice that as I go back to the initial select statement that we started with, and it had all the 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s because those were the initial phone numbers, I just did the update statement, however, so when I click run, it changes to 1515, 2525, and so on. So that's a simple way to do that. Now, if we go back to grouping the tables together, I can just go to this, and what I did here was have all the tables individually listed. You could ideally just do an A dot star and a B dot star and label phone num as A and phone num phone ID as A and phone num as B. Or sorry, people friends as A and people phone num as B. But or you can individually list every single one. And the reason I commented out phone num person ID was because it's already being referenced to the person ID in friends. So it's still going to make sure they group and they line up correctly because I put a where statement, but it's not going to duplicate in the result. We don't need the phone number to show up twice, or the person ID to show up twice. And this shows right here that when we did the update statement, both phone numbers updated the same. That's why I left that on. Now I just want to talk a little bit about lottery numbers. I have a just select statement. When you're trying to select distinct values, there's a list of the past 514 lottery numbers. You're trying to select distinct values. All you do is you type select distinct, and then I did A.N2 for this one, and this will show us the numbers that were second highest with the averages. Now, down here, the statement has already been run, and I just grouped it by N2 as well. The second ball only came up 4 times, but this, remember, is in the second lowest. So those 4 times, that means the lowest had to be 1. And then the second lowest was 2, which is very rare. If we go to the other, if we go to N1, right here, you'll notice that the 2 has come up 55 times, and that's because 2 is much more likely to be the lowest number than to be the second lowest number, just by the odds of it. And we can also do the same thing for N3, right here, bring it up, and we see 4 happens very rarely because that means the 2 lower numbers had to be 1, 2, or 3, and it had to be 2 of those. So that's very rare. It's only happened once. 5 has not happened in the past 514 times. This gives you an analysis, and you see it start to peak once you get closer to the middle, because there's also N4 and M5, and then there's a N6 special ball. So that's just a little analysis of how to use Postgres with the lottery. And all these lottery numbers were generated off a different database. I was using Friends for the beginning of this. All the lottery numbers were generated off the database lot, and then off the table, my table, lot N2. And if you view that table, view the data, it has 514 rows. We'll look at the top, and this just shows all the numbers. So that's where it's getting the information from. Thank you.